Hi everyone, this lesson focuses on the web application Flickr at flickr.com. That link will be on the wiki for you to go to and play with after viewing the screencast. Flickr is a photo website, and so certainly students can use it to find photos from all over the world. A lot of them are usable in school projects through their Creative Commons licensing, and then they host photos from a whole bunch of different organizations that can really be some fascinating things for students to look at. Additionally, there's a feature that allows users to email photos taken with phones or devices, and it will show up in your Flickr account. I'll show you about that briefly. And then a really great application of it that I think has a lot of potential is that Flickr allows users to curate galleries of other people's photos. So in terms of some ideas for some uses, certainly students could use this as an online photo portfolio for an art class or photography class. And there are quite a few accounts on there that are evidence that this is being done at a lot of different schools. Students could also email images to your Flickr account that illustrate some piece of course content out in the community. Flickr also has an app now, and so they would be able to utilize that to do the same thing. But in terms of this gallery option, that's kind of what we're going to be focusing on. They could curate galleries of just about anything because of how many photos are available on Flickr. So some quick ones I thought of might be something like photography techniques, math in nature, photos of items that might have different acidities or that use various elements, photos of a place that's culturally important. Students could make like a persuasive piece almost about a place that they should preserve or that is endangered. They could curate a gallery of photos that are more symbolic in a reaction to a novel or a piece of text. They could make a collection that teaches others about the physical or cultural geography of a place, or to just apply some concepts from the class. And then two, this could be used in ELL classrooms or foreign language classrooms because students could find pictures of just various everyday activities and describe them in either their new language in the way of ELL students or this language that they are starting to learn in foreign language classes. So those are just a few possibilities, and I think they're really quite vast. So let's take a look at Flickr and see how to do this. I am already logged into Flickr, and you can always tell that because they will have some sort of hello in a different language and your username. You do need an account to use Flickr the way that I am showing you. Students who are over 13 can have their own accounts. If you are a teacher of students under 13 and don't want them to have their own accounts, you could certainly make a class account, but you would only want to make one thing at a time. It's difficult for students to work on the same Flickr account. It doesn't always work correctly. Or you can use this and have the students actually answer questions about photos that you've placed in a gallery, or you can use this as a class to search for those photos I was talking about in the way of collections and add them together to galleries. So there are uses absolutely for students under 13, but if you can, I would absolutely recommend that your students create their own accounts. I'm not going to show you how to make a Flickr account. It's very simple. When you go to flickr.com, it will ask you if you want to register and then guide you through the process, which is becoming quite typical. But if you need any help with that, of course, I'd be happy to help you through email. So here we are at the main page of Flickr. And if I'm going to make a gallery, as I was explaining, I want to start looking for photos. And I will pretend that I am doing an assignment that is a gallery about Buddhism. And I've done some research on Buddhism already. Maybe I've heard some lecture about it in class, or I have been online or looked in books to learn about Buddhism. And what the purpose becomes here is to show others what I've learned, or be able to make a presentation about Buddhism that includes some really beautiful photographs and also honors the copyright of those photographs because I'm not copying and pasting them into a PowerPoint or another presentation. And then additionally, students can send you the link to their galleries when they're finished, so you can look at this as a project that they would compile a gallery online and then send it to you for your review in the way of what they have learned. Students could also be assigned to look at each other's galleries either during class or at home to learn about the various topics you might have assigned. So there's lots of options in the way of how these might be used, either to just demonstrate learning or for sharing purposes. So maybe I've been assigned to do some research on Buddhism, and I've learned that something that's really interesting and beautiful about that religion is their practice concerning sand mandalas. So I'm going to look for a picture of that because I want a photo of that in my gallery. So I just search a quick terms, Buddhism and sand, and immediately hundreds of photos pop up. That's really something that's great about Flickr. I can see that I have 3,615 results for just Buddhism and sand mandalas, and there's lots of beautiful options. So maybe I like this one. This is them beginning to work on one and them working very hard on putting it together. And I want to add this to my gallery. Now, to do that, all I do is click on Actions. I want to add to a gallery. Now, I don't have a gallery for Buddhism yet because I'm just starting this project. You can see I've made a couple others in teaching my own students how to do this. I'm going to create a new gallery. And here it is, about Buddhism. Now, the gallery description is about the whole gallery, not this photo. And you can dictate what students write in here. Maybe it's a little overview of the topic as a whole or an introduction to why they're studying this. In the additional resources for this lesson, I'll provide you with a couple of examples of lessons I have done using Flickr galleries, but the gallery description is an overall description rather than something that's specific to a single photograph. So you just want to remember that as we're going along here in the way of what you're asking students to do. So this actually also can be quite long, by the way. So you can ask students to write something that is pretty formalized or in depth in this space, and they won't run out of room. We click Create Gallery. Now, it's made our gallery, but we still need to add this photo. So we click that we want to add this photo to Buddhism. And it says check mark, but it doesn't say that it's put it in our gallery over here, and that's what you want to look for. I have found that sometimes with Flickr, in terms of only the first photo you add, you have to click this twice. And you see, there it is, it's in one gallery, and that's ours. So we know it's been added. So you can just tell students that so that they're aware and can kind of keep track and not find that something they wanted to add didn't actually get added. But again, I've only found that that happens when you're first creating the gallery and then everything has worked perfectly. So that's just sort of a little side note. So we're going to click Done. Now, we want to keep looking for pictures right now. I'm going to show you how they can add a description to each of their photos in a moment, but let's add one more before we do that. So let's look for the Buddha. And again, tons of options, some modern options, some more ancient options. Students are going to find a lot of different things when they do this. Certainly Flickr is wide open. It is not blocked by the school district. Maybe every now and again students will find a photograph that they might be surprised by, but that has never happened in my classes, and I think it's very unlikely as long as they're using reasonable search terms. But this is open to everyone, and there's all sorts of pictures that have been uploaded. You can see that there's some different ways to sort. Relevancy has to do with the fact that we typed in the name Buddha. These are the pictures that have been most recently added to Flickr. There are thousands of photos added to Flickr every minute. So that's an interesting kind of search in the sense of just what is being uploaded right now. And then you can also choose interesting. These photos have special qualities about them that Flickr looks for with their artificial intelligence and just in the way they're laid out or the colors that are used. So that's another option in the way of how they could search. So if I go back to relevant and choose this photograph of a statue of the Buddha, and I want to go ahead and add it to my gallery, you can see also there's notes on this statue. If you want to play with looking at that, that's a really neat feature of Flickr as well. We're not going to do that right now, but you can add notes to photos in Flickr, and students could do that to other people's photos if they wanted to in the way of their gallery itself. So we want to add to our gallery. So we click, we want to choose our Buddhism gallery. Okay, and we see that it appears in the gallery, so we're done there, and we click Done. Now, once we're all finished adding to our gallery, and you can dictate how many pictures the students have to add, maybe it's 8 total, or maybe it's 1 for each of these aspects of your assignment, but they go through and they search for all their photos and they add them, and then they click, or they go to You and just hover over You, and they click Galleries. And this takes me to my Buddhism gallery, so I'm going to open it. Here's where my overall description will appear. You can see that I can edit that here as well. So students don't have to write it right as they are beginning their gallery, but they can. Okay, so I can edit that. And then with each of my photos, I can type something about this photo, what it means, why I put it in there, just like the prompt said, what some specific question that I'm answering in relation to the class assignment itself. So again, these can be quite long as well, and they can type a little paragraph about each photo and save it. And then as you scroll down, you'll see our second photo. I can type here again and save that. So students really have two options. They can add a couple of photographs and go type about each one within the confines of the assignment, or they can add all of the photographs they want to or that they're required to, and then go back and do their writing about them. Once it's all finished, again, it just saves automatically as it goes along in their Flickr account, and there's a web address that they can email to you to share this gallery with you. When they're in their gallery, there's a web address up in the address bar that's specific to this gallery, and you can't quite see that in my screen here, but they can also share it. And so you can share this via email. They can choose to do that, and so you see that this is their gallery here. They type in your email address and write, Karen's gallery, so that their name is in it. You can also require them to do that in the title of the gallery. And then they click send, and it will send you an email with the link to their gallery in it. So they can either email you just by copying and pasting from the address bar, which again you can't quite see in this frame, but it is a specific web address, or they can choose to share it this way with you by email, either one there. So once they're finished, they can submit it, or they can log in to their account if you guys are sharing these in class, and then just show their photos by doing it this way and kind of using what they wrote as prompts to explain why they shared the photograph. And again, part of the reason that you might choose to do it that way is because then that doesn't violate any copyright rules. Even citing photos in PowerPoint presentations or outside of where they were found can be something that students don't do correctly or forget to do quite often. So this really gets them into the habit of being sure that they're giving credit to the person who took the photo, and they can show them just as beautifully here as they would in a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. The last thing I want to quickly show you in this screencast has to do with what I mentioned about the email that you can use here. Flickr has a feature where it gives you this dedicated email address, and it's always kind of a funky, strange set of words, but students could take pictures with their phones, for example, and then choose to email them, and they'll appear directly in your Flickr account. So this might be a really neat thing if students sort of fanned out around the school grounds or in the school and took photos of something you were learning about or applied the concepts of something you had been teaching. And then they just email the photo with a little caption in the message box of the email, and it'll show up so you can all get back together at the next class or the end of class and look at what people have contributed to your account. So to get to that email address, you just click on the little icon up here. This is your avatar, and I don't have a picture in there, which is why it's this little straight-faced guy. But I click on that, and this takes me to my account information. I want to click on emails and notifications. And again, like I said, the email address that it's going to assign you is kind of just this strange combination of words, but it will work for what you're doing. So you can see here that my Flickr upload email is soon02amount@photos.flickr.com. So if you give the students that address, and again, they go on out and take some photos and then email them to your account, it will upload them right away. So you can tell students that they just take the photo and then go into their device and choose to email it. And many devices have this capacity. And so they type in that email address that you see here that you give to the students. Yours will be different, into the to area. The subject line of the email is the title of the photo that comes through on Flickr, and then they can type in the actual body of the email along with the photo, or if it sends the photo as an attachment, they type in the body a little description, and that will appear as the description of the photo. And then once they've sent it to you, if you just go to you and click on Photo Stream, it will show those pictures showing up. So that might be another neat option for a way to submit some photos of something you're working on or using that application in class. That concludes this lesson on Flickr, and I'm sure you're thinking of all sorts of ways that you too can use this with your students. We'll see you again next time.